Edinburgh survive a Bulls comeback to reach a European semi-final. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. Edinburgh, got a great start in this game, but it really was a game of two halves. We start off, they look to attack off a scrum on halfway. Good carry from Houston. Then Graham puts a little kick in behind, and the chase is good. They charge down Creel's clearance 10 metres out, but then the Bulls manage to ground it and clear. Edinburgh, though, strike from the dropout. Ritchie runs it back. Then they go right. Curry through a gap. Velicott then puts Lang over to score, converted for 7 points to 0. Lang and Curry then combine to get into the Bulls 22, but it's turnover and the Bulls break, kicked towards the line, but Edinburgh get there first before the Bulls get to the loose ball but knock on. But just before we restart, then we have a TMO check, and it's right back at the start of the move as the Bulls turn it over into 22, and there's a deliberate knock on from Zach Berger. He slapped Lang's attempted offload down to create the break, so he goes to the bin. Edinburgh then go to the corner. They go to the maul, and the backs come in to help, but the Bulls manage to halt it. Edinburgh then move it infield. Velicott goes to the line, but we have a TMO check that confirms they actually grounded the ball short. Edinburgh then, they keep coming. They turn the ball over from a Bulls line out into 22. They go left and then all the way over to the right as they get within 10 metres of the line before we then come back for a penalty. They tap the penalty and Bradbury drives over to score, converted for 14-0. Thought Bradbury had an excellent game for Edinburgh. So did, Ritchie in that back row as well. The Bulls then hit back. Forster picks up a loose ball. It was like, they were trying to attack and it looked like it was broken down because the ball actually goes loose behind them, but he does well, picks it up, and it just slices through the middle of the Edinburgh defence. And he finds Creel. Creel is tackled just short of the line, but he's able to stretch out and ground next to the post. That's converted for 14 points to 7. Then Ewan Ashman gets pinged for a dummy throw at the line out, but moments later he's running the ball back towards the 22 from the clearance kick. He finds Velicott. He kicks over, but then knocks it on as he tries to gather the ball just before the line. Edinburgh then not rolling away, and Williams kicks it right into the corner. Good chance to get back level now. Bulls back to 15 as well. Van der Merwe trucks it up off the back of the maul. He gets held out. A few rucks later, then Edinburgh turn the ball over, and some really good defence for Edinburgh through the game, ensuring that they kind of kept their lead. Edinburgh then come forward again. They work it within 5 metres of the line, go through the phases. Lang tries a dab in behind, but it's blocked. But very luckily, it comes straight back to him. He's kind of juggling with the ball, trying to control it as he's going over the line. He does gather it, and then he scores, converted for 21 points to 7. Bulls then have another chance from a line out on the edge of 22, but they purposely go over the back, but Edinburgh have read it, they're wise to it, they claim it, and then they kick clear. Bulls then win a scrum penalty. Williams kicks to the corner, but it's nowhere near, and it basically bounces like 10 metres or so infield in front of the try line. It's a bit of a scramble, but the Bulls then give away a penalty for holding on. Edinburgh then win a penalty, and Thompson stretches the lead to 24-7 from the tee, and that was our halftime score. In the second half then, Edinburgh win a penalty, and Thompson before that actually, the Bulls bring on Houston at 10 for Johannes, and Velicott can't continue for Edinburgh, so Ali Price comes on. So Ali Price did really well in terms of helping Edinburgh manage that game in the second half, because a very different game that they had to put up with. In the first half, they're on top, not so much in the second half. But then Bulls are looking for impact early in the second half, but not the one that they got, because Kirsten goes to the bin for a high tackle. Referee says it was mitigated as there was a first tackle from Peterson, but he's very upright in the tackle, and he's lucky that it was only yellow, honestly. Edinburgh then go up the line from the penalty over half way, and then they strike from that line out. Ashman breaks into 22 behind the defence, offload. It's moved right, where Graham goes close, then back in field for Gilchrist to go over, convert for 31 points to 7. Bulls then go to the corner from a penalty, set up the maul, and it drives forward over the line. But we go upstairs. Ross McCann then, he goes to the bin for coming in at the side of the maul, and it's a penalty try, 31 points to 14. Bulls then with a scrum in the 22, close to the left touchline. Peterson carries off the back. Jacobs comes on a nice line. He goes close. It's recycled, and Hanekom, is over for a try. In a losing team, Hanekom was certainly a standout. Converted for 31 points to 21. Moody then gets the Bulls within a couple of meters. He caused havoc when he come on, like in the second half. Brought down by Houston, then Edinburgh counter ruck and win a penalty. Again, really good defence from Edinburgh there, when it looked for all the world that Bulls are going to get another try. We then have another team-out check for a high hit on Schumann. Not a high degree of danger is what the referee says, and the ball carrier was going down, so it's just a penalty. But honestly, I think the fact that it was Kirsten again was a factor, because honestly think any other player would have been a yellow card, would have been his second, and therefore a red card. So I think that's why the referee, maybe on the edge there, decided to go with the penalty. Thompson then slots the penalty to give Edinburgh a little more breathing room, 34 points to 21. Then another good position for the Bulls into 22, put the line out, misfires again. Then they push early at the resulting scrum, and Edinburgh can clear. And it's from here, it's like a litany of missed chances for the Bulls. I'm not even going to go through them all, but they lose another chance after going to the corner from a scrum penalty, and they're pinged for obstruction in the line out. In fairness, on this one, not as blatant as we normally see these ones given for, maybe, a bit unlucky with that one. But then yet another scrum penalty. Houston kicks it to the corner. Not the best. Like, he's more than 50 metres out. Van Staden comes off the back of the maul, but he's held up and it's turned over. Edinburgh then, they're soaking up a lot of pressure, and they're looking now, to run down the last 10 minutes, because they for a long time now, they've been soaking up that pressure. Bulls then get held up over the line as they attack off the back of a scrum, but they did have penalty advantage. They continue to batter away at the Edinburgh line, and you feel like a try is definitely coming. Then Creel goes over, converted for 34 points to 28. We've got 4 minutes left on the clock at this stage. Bulls then drive them all from their own half to deep into the Edinburgh half. They win a penalty, and after advantage, then they decide to go up to the line. But I don't know what the story was, but Houston, his kicking up the line, he seemed to have his angles wrong or something, because he never made much distance. So they end up just outside the 22. They should have been within about 10 metres of the line instead. And then Edinburgh managed to halt them all. So Bulls then look to spread it on the edge of the 22, but Schumann gets over the ball to win a penalty, and that's the game, 34-28, full time. Edinburgh, I think, good value for the win. Bulls, they did produce a comeback, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot on a few occasions as well. So let's look at the stats, and then we'll have a little bit more of a chat about each of the teams. So let me put it up on the site here. So first of all, tries, 4 tries each in the game. And, Bulls definitely, coming back strong, but never really got themselves in front. And that was a big thing in the game. Edinburgh always had something to defend, something to hold on to, even if the Bulls were chipping away at that lead. Next in on attack, meters made 389 to 312. So, Edinburgh definitely having the better of that. And then 105 carries to 97. So, Edinburgh averaging over 3.5 meters per carry, and the Bulls around about 3 meters. Then clean breaks 9 to 7. And this is a stat you don't see very often. Defenders beaten 21 for Edinburgh, which is not unusual, but it says 6 beaten for Edinburgh. How did somebody make a clean break and not beat any defenders? That's kind of weird. I've never actually seen that, where a team has beaten less defenders than the number of clean breaks they've made. Offloads then, I guess somebody there was nobody close enough to them when they broke to be considered having gotten beaten, I guess. Then offloads 4 for Edinburgh, 5 for the Bulls. Passes 141 to 103. Then possession 51 to 49, and territory 47 to 53. But those swung wildly between the two halves. Edinburgh bossed the game in the first half, and the Bulls in the second half. Onto defence then. Tackles made 127 to 115. 90% tackle success rate for Edinburgh is amazing. Even at your C level, we kind of talk about 85% being good, and high 80s is really good. So 90% is excellent, especially in European quarterfinal. The Bulls at 80%. If you look across the other European knockout games, 80% is actually decent. Normally the tackle success rate is lower than in the domestic leagues, but Edinburgh were just absolutely on it today. Turnovers 1 then as well. Edinburgh 12 turnovers to 2 for the Bulls. So those interventions, making their tackles, but then crucially following up with turnovers as well was the cornerstone really on what, especially the second half performance in terms of getting to that win was built on. Then lineouts. So Edinburgh 13-1 to 15 for the Bulls. Edinburgh at 76% to the Bulls 75, but it certainly felt like the Bulls, their lineout cost them more at crucial moments of the game as well. Scrums then 5 for Edinburgh, 6 for the Bulls, 71% for Edinburgh, 100% for the Bulls. Bulls absolutely on top in the scrum. But the problem was they'd monster them in the scrum, win a penalty, and then, not monster them, there weren't too many monster scrums, honestly, but they'd win a penalty at the scrum, they'd go up the line, and then the line out wouldn't work, and it was what was the point in winning the penalty in the first place? Kicks from hand then 27 to 24, and Edinburgh 688 meters to 581. So their kicking game's certainly the better of the two. Retained kicks, you can see, Bulls are kicking shorter and they retained a lot more kicks. 1 retained for Edinburgh and 8 for the Bulls. But again, for the most part, couldn't really build much on the back of those. Onto then the breakdown. 74 rucks won to 70. 2 rucks lost each. So 96% to 94. Then mauls, 3 for Edinburgh for 3 meters and 9 for the Bulls for 5 meters, including the one that got them, that penalty try. 100% maul success for Edinburgh, 56 for the Bulls is, you expect the Bulls is such a good maul. You expect that to be, up near 100%, especially from 9 mauls. You'd expect, either it's going to be 100% or 91% or wherever, 89 or wherever, if one went wrong. But, I guess it's 4 out of 5 mauls misfired for them, which you do not expect from them. Onto discipline then. Penalties conceded 8 for Edinburgh, and 12 for the Bulls. 1 yellow card for Edinburgh and 2 for the Bulls. But for my money, should have been a red card on their side as well. Well, it should have been like 1 yellow and 1 red, really. We shouldn't even had to. I'm not sure about whether the first one was definitely a red, but certainly Kirsten should have got 2 yellows, I think. But decent performance from Edinburgh, under so much pressure in the second half, but they weren't conceding, tons of penalties, so they weren't getting warnings for the number of penalties conceded, etc. Because the Bulls were helping them out by, messing things up themselves. Okay, so let's talk about each of the teams. So we start with the home team, Edinburgh. Excellent result for them into a European semi-final. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be Edinburgh, to be the Scottish team that actually turned up this weekend. I thought Glasgow were really going to make it a game against Leinster, at least before the game. And I thought that maybe Edinburgh, because they're so up and down, that it was a great chance for the Bulls actually to come through in this one. So got both of those wrong. But very happy for Edinburgh as well. And I talked about it in the build up that, Edinburgh, they need to find consistency. They need to, because they have the potential to get to where Glasgow are now, but they've got to be more consistent than they've been in the past. So maybe a decent run in this competition, maybe even winning this competition, will be a bit of a catalyst for them. The same way that Glasgow winning the URC was a huge G up for them. But in this game, did really well in the first half. Getting their scores and as well, stopping the Bulls, kind of keeping the game closer, at crucial times. And then the second half, then it was more of a rear guard action, but, they defended very well. They stopped them all at crucial times. They disrupted lineouts. They were very aggressive at the breakdown, getting turnovers. Richie Schumann to the fore there as well in that regard, and they were able to bring it home, in the end. So excellent from them, and going on to semi-final now, they'll, and they're going to be playing the winner of Gloucester versus Bath. So the thing now is to not waste this opportunity that they've gotten. They should be considering themselves as the favourites for that game. But can they deliver at home? Will they kind of wilt under the pressure of a semi-final? We'll have to see, but we'll talk more about that next week, or not next week, sorry, in the week running up to those semi-finals. On to then the Bulls. So the Bulls, they just gave themselves so much to do in that first half. There was uncharacteristic errors from them as well, and not as tight in their set piece as we expect them to be, because like the Bulls, they have lots of strings to their bow, but one of the major ones is that catch and drive from the line out that we saw working well at times, but for whatever reason, when they got close to the line, other than the penalty try, it wasn't really working for them. So that's certainly on them in terms of making sure that works in big games in the future. But the turnaround, the impact from the bench, they brought some big names off the bench in the second half, and they really did have an impact for them, but wasn't enough to get them over the line in this one either. And yeah, you wonder again, it's one of those ones where had they picked a stronger side to start, maybe they wouldn't have had such a big deficit to chase down in that second half. But they made a game of it. And I always say, if you do something like that where you're not picking your strongest side and you get knocked out, well, you can't really be pointing fingers at anyone but yourselves, and I'm not just talking about the Bulls there, like, my own team, Leinster, have been guilty of it many, many times in the past, and lots of other teams have as well. So, but this Bulls team, they're out of Europe now, but, they've been, out of the last 3 seasons, they've been the Eurostea final twice. You wouldn't back against them making the final again this year, maybe lifting the trophy. But to do that, they're going to have to pick stronger teams. And I think now that they only have the one competition to focus on, that's what we're going to see from the Bulls now until the end of their season. So congratulations to Edinburgh, commiserations to the Bulls. There were a few injuries in the game. Velicott, hope that, he comes through that as well. Anybody else who went off injured in the game as well. But it looked like, compared to yesterday's game, we didn't have as many major injuries, at least in the game. So fingers crossed for anyone who did have to go off. But that's it from me. Let me know what you think down in the comments.